Hello, I'm so excited to be with you today. And today we are talking about intuition and listening to our hearts. So let's get started. First thing that I want to say is that we all have an absolutely brilliant guidance system inside of us. It's that little voice inside that gives us little pings of insight, little pings of clarity. We all have it. Now, the problem is that a lot of people have been conditioned not to take that voice seriously. So when the little voice tells you, hey, I want to work on this passion project. Hey, I want to start dating again. Hey, I want to try this new hobby. We shove it away. And likewise, when the little voice says, hey, this job isn't working for me anymore. Hey, this relationship isn't working for me anymore. Hey, this friendship isn't working for me anymore. We invalidate it. We're like, suck it up, instead of actually listening to it. So we all have this brilliant inner guidance system, and it shows up as this little voice inside of us, right? But the problem is that we have been conditioned not to take it seriously. Now, why do we do this? Where does that come from? Well, to be honest, I'll cut straight to the chase. We learned how to treat ourselves, how to treat our desires, how to treat our thoughts, how to treat our emotions, how to treat our body during the first 10 years of our lives. You're gonna hear me saying this again and again and again, but in the first 10 years of our lives, we just soak in all of the messages that our parents are telling us, that our teachers are telling us. We're sponges and we're just soaking in all of this information. So if people don't treat us as these brilliant, wise creatures who have beautiful ideas, who are capable of anything that we set our mind to, who are worthy of anything that we truly desire, then we learn to not take ourselves seriously, to not take our inner voice seriously. So I just want to really let that land. Because when you think about it, when we're really honest with ourselves, we don't take kids seriously. We don't take their insights seriously. We walk around as if adults know it all. So now just put yourself into that kid's shoes and imagine that, adults were treating you as if they knew better, as if they knew what was best for you better, as if they knew what was best for your life better than what you could feel and intuitively sense. You soaked those messages in. You learned, I have to look out there. I have to look to authorities to make decisions for myself. Rather than, hey, I know this inner voice. This inner voice is me. This is my creativity. This is my inspiration. And I'm going to listen to this and follow this. So, how do we heal this? How do we start taking our inner voice seriously? Well, first things first, we need to start observing our thoughts. We need to start observing and getting familiar with what thoughts are anxiety and are coming from a place of fear and pain and scarcity. And then what thoughts are coming from something deeper, from inspiration, from desire, from an inner knowing, from a place of abundance, from a place of knowing, that anything is possible in this world. So we need to start observing these thoughts so that we can differentiate them. And I'll speak more about this in a second. As we start to do that, it becomes more clear which thoughts we should listen to and take really seriously and act upon, and which thoughts we can, process and let go of, and also just not take as seriously. And to that, I want to be really transparent that a lot of your thoughts are lying to you. You have a lot of thoughts telling you that you're not enough, that you can't do it, that XYZ isn't possible, that you can't listen to your desires because blah, 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 blah. A lot of those thoughts are lying to you, right? So I just want to be transparent about that. So all of the thoughts that are coming from fear, scarcity, what if, the shoulds, those are the thoughts that aren't really telling you a true story, right? Now, on the other hand, the thoughts that are inspiring and wise and bring clarity and abundance and desire into your life, that is your guidance system. That is your inner guidance system. That is your intuition. And a lot of times you can differentiate these thoughts, not only based on, the energy around it. Is it coming from this place of fear and anxiety, or is it coming from a place of peace? But also just based on how they feel, right? And based on their frequency. Your intuition isn't chattering 24/7. It's not going and going and going. I mean, when you're in creative flow, you're going to have a lot of that flow. But in all honesty, your intuition speaks to you in moments when you're least expecting it. When you're on a walk and you have an insight. When you're in the shower and you have a breakthrough. When you're meditating and you get a really clear message about which direction to take in your life or your healing journey, right? So that's the difference. The fearful thoughts are just chattering and chattering and chattering and will have you going in circles and circles and circles, whereas the intuition is going to come to you in a moment of clarity. And as you connect with your intuition more and more and more, that voice becomes your main voice. Rather than the voice of fear, you start operating from a voice of clarity, and all of those fearful thoughts diminish, right? So you have less thoughts, but you have more thoughts of clarity. Okay, so that's the first part of healing this and connecting with your intuition, really differentiating the difference between the two kinds of thoughts, right? And then the next step is doing healing work. The more that we release pain from our body, the more clarity we have. The more we learn to regulate our body and our nervous system, the more clarity we have. And I'm going to expand on this. Trauma is unresolved distress in our body. And what happens when we have this unresolved distress is we live in a dysregulated state. We live in a very stressful state. We live in a state where we're either in fight mode, where we're fighting with ourselves or we're fighting with other people. We might be in flight mode where we just avoid. We cannot handle conflict. We absolutely ghost situations. We ghost ourselves. We can't handle the emotions in ourselves, so we just ghost. We might be in freeze, which is where we feel overwhelmed, we feel lethargic, we feel depressed, we feel numb. Or we might be in appease mode, which is where we're people pleasing. We're doing what we think everybody else wants us to do. So that is what being stuck in trauma, stuck in distress looks like. So as we learn to release that distress from our body by processing the pain through somatic releases, right? I speak about psychedelics, right? I speak about mushrooms. When we have a mushroom trip or we're microdosing, we can release pain from our body. And then also as we learn to regulate, as we learn to use breath work, mindfulness, grounding, as we draw, as we dance, we're regulating. So as we release this pain and as we regulate, what happens is we go into a state called the window of tolerance. And in the window of tolerance, life is a lot less confusing because all that anxious chatter is not just going and going and going all the time. The distress has been released. So that symptom of an overthinking mind that's just constantly in fight, flight, freeze, appease is able to go into the window of tolerance, into a state of regulation, right? And so when you're in a state of regulation, it is much easier to connect with your true self, with your intuition, with your flow, with your creativity. Because in a regulated state, your thoughts and emotions are regulated. They're not, going up and down and all over the place. So just to recap, to really connect with your intuition, you need to become an observer of your thoughts, to really become aware of the fearful thoughts versus those moments of intuition. And then the next part is to heal, to do the inner work, to release the trauma and to learn to regulate so that you're in that regulated state and can have regulated thinking and emotions and can really gain deeper access to that intuition. And moreover, what happens as a final point when you're in that regulated state is that your capacity to act from a place of peace and clarity expands. You are training your body when you regulate to just be in a regulated state, to act from intuition instead of fear, to have that be your norm. I hope this is helpful. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you.